part 2 of day 3. We are going to finish the Crucible, or Act 1 of the Crucible, in this section. As I was saying last time, I was just kind of explaining who Reverend Hale was. If you didn't catch that, just listen to the last 2 minutes of day 3, part 1. Okay, so let's pick up. Reverend Hale has just come to town, and he is meeting with Reverend Paris and all the other men who are in Reverend Paris's house.
Pray you, someone take these books.
Mr. Hale. Oh, it's good to see you again, sir. My, they're heavy.
They must be. They are weighted with authority.
Well, you do come prepared.
We shall need hard study if it comes to tracking down the old boy. You cannot be Rebecca Nurse.
I am, sir. Do you know me?
It's strange how I knew you, but I suppose you look as such a good soul should.
Oh.
We have all heard of your great charities in Beverly.
Do you know this gentleman, Mr. Thomas Putnam, and his good wife, Anne?
Putnam, I had not expected such distinguished company, sir.
It does not seem to help us today, Mr. Hale. We look to you to come to our house and save our child.
Your child ails too.
Her soul seems flown away. She sleeps and yet she walks.
She cannot eat.
Cannot eat. Do you men have afflicted children?
No. These men are farmers. John Proctor.
He don't believe in witches.
I never spoke on witches one way or the other. Will you come along, Giles?
No, John, I think not. I have a few queer questions of my own to ask this fella.
I hear you to be a sensible man, Mr. Hale. I hope you'll leave some of it in Salem.
Will you look at my daughter, sir? She has tried to leap out the window. We discovered her on the high road this morning, waving her arms as though she'd fly.
She cannot bear to hear the Lord's name, Mr. Hale. That's a sure sign of witchcraft afloat.
No. Now let me instruct you. We cannot look to superstition in this. The devil is precise. The marks of his presence are as definite as stone. And I must tell you all that I will not proceed unless you are prepared to believe me if I should find no bruise of hell upon her.
Oh, it is agreed, sir. It is agreed. We will abide by your judgment.
Good, then. Now, sir, what were your first warning of this strangeness?
Why, sir, I discovered my daughter Betty and my niece Abigail and 10 or 12 other girls dancing in the forest last night.
You permit dancing?
No, it was secret.
Mr. Paris's slave has knowledge of conjurers.
We
sir.
cannot be sure of that, Goody Ann.
I know it, sir. I sent my child. She should learn from Tituba, who murdered her sisters.
Goody Ann, you sent a child to conjure up the dead.
Let God judge me, not you, Rebecca. I'll not have you blaming me more. Sir, is it a natural work to lose 7 children before they live a day?
7 dead in childbirth.
What book is that?
What's there, sir?
Here is all the invisible world, caught, defined, and calculated. In these books, the devil stands stripped of all of his brute disguises. Here are all your familiar spirits, your incubi and succubi, your witches that go by land, by sea, and by air, your wizards of the night and of the day. Have no fear now. We shall find him out if he has come among us, and I mean to crush him utterly if he has shown his face.
Will it hurt the child, sir?
I cannot tell. If she is truly in the devil's grip, we may have to rip and tear to get her free.
I think I'll go then. I am too old for this.
Why, Rebecca, we may open the boil of all our troubles here today.
Let us hope for that. I go to God for you, sir.
All right, so let's summarize what we just read. First of all, Paris welcomes Reverend Hale into his home, and the first thing they start talking about is, she did this, she did that, it's got to be witchcraft. And I want you to notice something very important that Hale says. He says, no, let me instruct you. I'm the expert here. We cannot look to superstition in this because the devil is very precise. The marks of his presence are definite as stone, and I must tell you all that I shall not go forward unless you are prepared to believe me, even if I don't find any bruise of hell upon her. Meaning, look, you have to be able to accept the fact that this may not be witchcraft. And the men in the room are just not willing to accept that. They still have their minds made up that this is witchcraft and there's no other explanation. So Mr. Hale is kind of warning them, saying, this may not be what you think it is, and you're going to have to be open to another possibility. And of course, they keep going back and forth. And I love Rebecca because, she's the voice of reason here. She says, I'm going to leave. I'm too old for this. Okay. Let's continue.
I hope you do not mean we go to Satan here.
I wish I knew.
Come, Mr. Hale, let's get on. Sit you here.
Mr. Hale, I have always wanted to ask a learned man, what signifies the reading of strange books?
What books?
I cannot tell. She hides them.
Who hides them?
Martha, my wife. I have waked at night many a time and found her in a corner reading of a book. Now, what do you make of that?
Why, that's not necessarily a
It
sign of...
discomforts me. Last night, mark this, I tried and could not say my prayers. And then she closed her book and walks out of the house, and suddenly, mark this, I could pray again.
Old Giles must be spoken for, if only because his fate was to be so remarkable and so different from that of all the others. He was in his early 80s at this time, and was the most comical hero in the history. No man has ever been blamed for so much. If a cow was missed, the first thought was to look for her around Corey's house. A fire blazing up at night brought suspicion of arson to his door. He didn't give a hoot for public opinion, and only in his last years, after he had married Martha, did he bother much with the church. That she stopped his prayer is very probable, but he forgot to say that he'd only recently learned any prayers, and it didn't take much to make him stumble over them. He was a crank and a nuisance, but withal a deeply innocent and brave man. In court once, he was asked if it were true that he had been frightened by the strange behavior of a hog, and had then said he knew it to be the devil in an animal's shape. What frighted you? He was asked. He forgot everything but the word frighted, and instantly replied, I do not know that I ever spoke that word in my life.
Stop it, you prick.
Okay, so I just want you to know, take a few things to take away about Giles Corey. He's an old man. He's in his 80s, and he's a cranky old man with a lot of grievances against everybody in the town. The one thing that's good to note here is that he was not a church-going man until later in life when he got married to Martha, and Martha started bringing him to church. So the author points out that this man did not grow up knowing prayer, so he learned them at a later age, on top of the fact that he's 80 and probably a touch losing his senility, right? He's going, maybe losing his memory a little bit, okay? So, I just wanted to point that out because he wants to talk to Reverend Hale about this strange thing that's happening in his house. One night, his wife was reading a book. First of all, women are not allowed to read books, right? Because that's a sign of idleness. So she's reading a book, and all of a sudden he forgets his prayers. But as soon as she shuts the book and leaves the room, he's suddenly able to pray again. It probably has less to do with witchcraft and more to do with the fact that maybe he's just losing his mind a little, and he's old. He forgot his prayers, and it was a coincidence. Okay, so let's continue.
Prayer. That is strange. I'll speak with you further on that.
Well, I'm not saying she's touched the devil now, but I'd admire to know what books she reads and why she hides them. She'll not answer me, you see.
I will discuss it. Now mark me. If the devil is in her, you will witness some frightful wonders in this room, so please, to keep your wits about you. Mr. Putnam, stand close in case she flies. Now, Betty. Betty, dear, will you sit up? Betty. Betty, can you hear me? I am John Hale, minister of Beverly. I have come to help you, dear. Do you remember my 2 little girls in Beverly?
How can it be the devil? Why should he choose my house to strike? We have all manner of licentious people in the village.
What victory would the devil have to win a soul already bad? It is the best the devil wants. And who is better than the minister?
That's deep, Mr. Parris. Deep, deep.
Betty. Answer, Mr. Hale. Betty.
Betty, does someone afflict you, child? It need not be a woman, mind you, nor a man. Perhaps some bird, invisible to others, comes to you. Perhaps a pig, a mouse, or any beast at all. Is there some figure bids you fly? In nomine Domini, sabot, sui filiique, ite ad infernus. Abigail, what sort of dancing were you doing with her in the forest?
Why, common dancing is all.
I think I ought to say I saw a kettle on the grass where they were
That were
dancing.
only soup.
What sort of soup were in this kettle, Abigail?
Why, it were beans and lentils.
Mr. Parrish, you did not notice, did you, any living thing in the soup? A mouse, perhaps, a spider, a frog?
I believe there was some movement in
That
the
jumped in. We never put
What
it
jumped in?
Why, a very little frog jumped in.
A frog, Abigail.
Abigail, it may be that your cousin is dying. Did you call the devil last night?
I never called him. Tituba.
She
Tituba.
called the devil.
I should like to speak with Tituba.
Would you bring her up, Goody Ann?
How did she call him?
I know not. She spoke Barbados.
Did you notice any strangeness when she called him? A sudden cold wind, perhaps, a trembling below the ground?
I didn't see no devil. Betty. Betty.
You cannot evade me, Abigail. Did your cousin drink any of the brew in that kettle?
She never drank it.
Did you drink it?
No, sir.
Did Tituba ask you to drink it?
She tried, but I refused.
Why are you concealing? Have you sold yourself to Lucifer?
I never sold myself. I'm a good girl. I'm a proper girl. She made me do it. She made Betty do it.
Abby!
She makes me drink blood.
Blood?
My baby's blood.
No, chicken blood. I give she chicken blood.
Woman, have you enlisted these children for the devil?
No, sir, I don't truck with no devil.
Then why can she not wake? Are you silencing this child?
I love me, Betty.
You have sent your spirit out upon this child, have you not? Are you gathering souls for the devil?
She sends her spirit on me in church. She makes me laugh at prayer.
She have often laughed at prayer.
She comes to me every night to go and drink blood.
You bade me to conjure. She bade me make charm.
Don't lie. She comes to me while I sleep. She's always making me dream corruptions.
What make you say that, Abby?
Sometimes I wake and find myself standing in the open doorway and not a stitch on my... I always hear her laughing in my sleep. I hear her singing her Barbados songs and...
Mr. Reverend, I never...
Tituba, I want you to wake this child.
I have no power on this child, sir.
You most certainly do, and you will free her from it now. When did you compact with the devil?
I don't compact with no devil.
You will confess yourself, or I will take you out and whip you to your death, Tituba.
This woman must be hanged. She must be taken and hanged.
No, don't hang Tituba. I tell him I don't desire the way for him, sir.
The devil?
Then you saw him. Now, Tituba, I know that when we bind ourselves to hell, it is very hard to break with it, but we are going to help you tear yourself free.
Mr. Reverend, I do believe somebody else bewitching these children.
Who?
I don't know, sir, but the devil got him numerous witches.
Does he? Tituba, look into my eyes. Come, look into me. Now, you would be a good Christian woman, would
I,
you not,
sir, a
Tituba?
good Christian woman.
And you love these little children.
I, sir, I don't desire to hurt little children.
And you love God, Tituba.
I love God with all my
now,
being.
in God's holy
Oh,
name.
bless him.
And to his
bless
glory.
Him.
Open
Eternal
yourself,
glory.
Tituba, open yourself,
Oh,
and let
bless him.
God's
Oh, bless
holy
the
light
Lord.
shine on you. Now, when the devil comes to you, does he ever come with another person? Perhaps someone else in this village, someone that you know.
Who came with him?
Sarah Good. Did you ever see Sarah Good with him? Or Osborne?
Was it a man or a woman?
Man, woman? Was woman?
What woman? You said woman.
It was black, dark, and I...
You could see him. Why not her?
Well, they was always talking and walking and running around and carrying on.
Out of Salem? Salem witches?
Aye, sir, I believe so, sir.
Tituba, you must have no fear to tell us who they are. Do you understand? We will protect you. The devil can never overcome a minister. You understand that, do you not?
Aye, sir, I do.
You have confessed yourself to witchcraft, and that speaks a wish to come to heaven's side, and we will bless you for it,
Oh,
Tituba.
bless you, Mr. Hay.
You are God's instrument, put in our hands to help us discover the devil's agents among us. You are selected, Tituba. You are chosen to help us cleanse our village. So speak utterly, Tituba. Turn your back on him and face God. Face God, Tituba, and God will protect you.
Oh, God, protect Tituba.
Who came to you with the devil? 2, 3, 4, how many?
There were 4.
Who? Their names. Their names.
Oh, how many times he bid me kill you, Mr. Paris?
Kill me.
He say, Mr. Paris must be killed. He say, Mr. Paris no goody man. Mr. Paris mean man. He no gentleman. He bid me rise out my bed and cut your throat. But I tell him no. I don't hate that man. I don't want to kill that man. But he say, you work for me, Tituba, and I make you free. I give you a pretty dress to wear and put you way high up in the air, and you're going to fly back to Barbados. But I tell him, no, you lie, devil, you lie. And he come one stormy night to me and he say, look, I have white people belong to me. And I look, and there was goody good. Sarah good.
Okay, so let me stop right here and just make sure everybody understands what's going on. So everything's getting very exciting here. The first thing that we notice is that Abigail, as soon as Tituba enters the room, the pressure is on Abigail's shoulders. Everybody is pushing her into a corner because they think she's the one who conjured the devil. And she's like, no, we were dancing. We had this pot of soup on the fire. It was probably just a pot of soup. It was not some witch's brew. But they do know that she drank blood, right? So as soon as Tituba comes in the room, Abigail deflects attention from her by pointing to Tituba and throwing her under the bus and saying that she's the culprit for all of this. And even Tituba is shocked because she's like, I thought we were friends. So Tituba, I want you to think of what just happened as like a courtroom drama that you would see on a movie or a TV show. And all the men in the room are the detectives. And Tituba is the person that they are interrogating in the conference room, right? And she's sitting at the table, and all these men are coming at her from all angles, putting information in her head. How many people did you see? Was it a man or a woman? Was it Sarah Good? Was it Sarah Osborne? And what she's doing right now is a false confession. She is scared for her life because she knows she is an outsider and she has no foot in this society, and it would be an easy way. She would be an easy scapegoat for this problem. And so she starts saying what they want to hear. And she starts pretty much repeating back the story that they just gave her with more detail, more drama. All right. So that continues. And as soon as she starts to talk, what happens? Just as it would in an interrogation, in a detective room, the good cop puts her arms on the accused and says, good job. Thank you for confessing. You did a good thing by confessing. Now we will make a deal with you to save your life. We won't, put you on death row. But if you start giving us names and give us the full story and point the finger at other people to see who else was involved, we can form a deal, right? And so that's what Tituba's doing. She wants to strike a deal. She does not want to have to pay for all of this, and so with her life, and so she starts to name people here. Again, it's a false confession. Tituba really didn't see anybody.
I saw Goody Osborne.
I knew it. Goody Osborne was midwife to me 3 times. I begged of you, Thomas, did I not? I begged him not to send for Osborne because I feared her. My baby's always shriveled in her hands.
Take courage, Tituba. You must give us all of their names. How can you bear to see this child suffering? Look at her. Look at her, Tituba. Look at her God-given innocence. Her soul is so tender. We must protect her. The devil is out and preying on her like a beast upon the flesh of the pure lamb. God will bless you for your help.
I want to open myself. I want the light of God. I want the sweet love of Jesus. I dance for the devil. I saw him. I wrote in his book. I go back to Jesus. I kiss his hand. I saw Sarah Good with the devil. I saw Goody Osborne with the devil. I saw Bridget Bishop with the devil. I saw George Jacobs with the devil.
Oh.
I saw Goody Howe with the devil.
She speaks!
Glory to
She
God.
speaks!
Broken they are free.
I saw Martha Bellows with the devil. I saw Goody Simmer with the devil.
The marshal, I will call the
I
marshal.
saw Alice Barrow with the
Let
devil.
the marshal bring
I
iron.
saw Goody Hawkins with the devil.
All right. And that's the end of Act 1. So as you can see, everybody jumps on the bandwagon. When Abigail in the background and Betty as well, when they both hear that all the men in the room are going to treat them kindly when they confess, that's exactly what they do. They give them the confession they want. However, here's a problem. They have just named 12 or so innocent women. that we haven't even met in the story yet. And some of them we won't even meet in the story. But now all of those names are going to be on the line. Okay, so let's stop there, and we will pick up on Act 2 next time.